welcome back. Episode
We're back, baby.
2, Electric Boogaloo.
We did it.
Of singing at brick walls.
Holden
Seidlitz's personal diary. So about
an Aaron West album
called In Lieu of Flowers. So this
I can't believe they let us have a second episode.
Yeah, no, it's kind of astonishing that they let us back in the studio. I thought that they were going to take our keys away, but we're here.
Here we are.
And we're talking about paying bills at the end of the world.
Yeah.
Not something we want to be doing. Can't believe we have to still do that.
Fucking believe.
So fucked. I'm so sorry.
Hey, it's the apocalypse. You owe rent.
Is everybody else? I had to pay rent yesterday. I don't know what day it is for you guys listening at home. 2 days ago. Jesus. That's crazy.
Well.
Anyway, but so let's.
This is it's track 3 on the record.
Track 3.
Right? Track 3 on the album. The second song we're releasing. Second
single. There's a lot of numbers that to keep in our heads.
A lot of numbers to keep track of.
But we're getting it straight.
And I would say it's probably the most fun song on the record because it's about a global pandemic that we all enjoyed deeply and greatly.
No, it's been fun. I hope it was fun for you guys.
I loved it. I think everybody did.
I'm still loving it.
Yeah.
I'm glad it's still going on.
Yes.
And I think, but I, ultimately I am glad that there is this sort of personal and political acknowledgement of what Aaron goes through on this record.
And there has to be.
I
think it's the nature of doing a project, and we'll probably talk about this several times throughout this thing, but the nature of doing a project where, it's predicated on the understanding that everything that happens to Aaron while in character is canon, and that Aaron exists on the same timeline as all of the rest of us. Yeah. And so the events of 2014's We Don't Have Each Other happened in 2013 and 2014. Right. The events of Routine Maintenance take place over the years between 2015 and 2019 when it's recorded. And the events of this record start in 2019 when that record came out, the last one came out, and go to present day. And the thing about the years between 2019 and 2023 are that several of them were spent in a global pandemic that is...
Never heard of it. That's crazy.
It's wild news.
Yeah.
And again, I am sorry about your coma, but I'm glad to have you back.
I'm glad to be back. I've missed a lot, clearly. Hope you can tell me about it through this song.
And so there's this necessity to address where Aaron was during this time period and to bring that reality into the story.
And I think, and we'll talk about this later because we do have a special guest this episode.
We do.
But I guess we can introduce him when it comes.
Yes.
But
we'll just say that he's very handsome.
He's so handsome.
And I'm not totally sure he's going to be on camera.
But I can see him right now shaking his head. But I like it. I like the leather jacket. But anyways, what I was going to say is that we'll talk about production and the kind of way that this song sounds later. But I think I really love, especially kind of early on in the record, that there's such a story song. It feels sort of like in the same tradition as a kind of like Jackson Browne, like working class. We talk about Springsteen so much, but it's like, because it's such a clear lineage for me, for Aaron's music, that there's this real sort of like feeling of what the people in his life, like their kind of labor and their lives is part of the music, and it's part of the way the music sounds, and it's part of the way that it feels. And I think with a project like this, where Aaron's biography is so deeply informed by the places that he grew up and the jobs that he's had. Working and the injuries he's incurred while working, but also the connections that he's made, the people that he's met painting houses or fixing fences or, manual labor is how he's constructed his world. And so I think that it's almost imperative to acknowledge what else that means.
And I think the thing about so when I look at the albums, I say it all the time, I look at them like seasons of television. And so it's about breaking the season and figuring out how it breaks into episodes and how the narrative makes sense. And so a lot of it is me thinking about logically what would happen here, right? And so it's okay, his sister teaches piano, his mom is a nurse at the hospital. What would happen during a pandemic? It's like, well, his mom would be working this like frontline dangerous job, right? This essential job, but no one would want piano lessons. And so there would be this dearth of income in the house. And so first there would be a lot of time to fill, a lot of space to fill. And I wanted to show how like slow that space could move by just showing Aaron and Colin ambling through life. And trying to show these kind of small moments of connection between the two of them. And then there was this understanding that like, okay, well, Aaron's going to need a job. And so I actually literally canvassed friends about this. And one of my friends' dad owns a garage door company very close to the town that Aaron lives in. And I was like, I bet he would have given Aaron a job. And so Aaron works doing driveways.
He does his homework. Dan really does his homework. If there's one thing I know about this man.
So Aaron works doing driveways and fixing garage doors just to try to keep the bills paid.
Yeah.
And I wanted to make sure that I brought into focus the financial strain that the pandemic put on so many working class families, and like how we kind of, as a world, as a country, continued to feed frontline workers to the machine of this disease. And, because we got to keep the lights on. And I mean, it's in the hook, right? It's like he keeps having a dream about dying from getting this and not being able to afford it. And it's like such a uniquely American experience to live in a first world nation. And when you fall ill, be like, but how will my family afford to keep me on this ventilator?
Yeah.
What damage will I do? And so I thought all of those things were like really necessary for this piece of the narrative and to fill that time frame.
And I think the great thing about that line for me is that it operates on this socioeconomic level where it's kind of demonstrative of this household that he's in. It's helping adding color to the story. It's helping characterize the struggle. But it also does something else narratively for Aaron as a character, which is this kind of development of the stakes in his life and his acknowledgement of the fact that people are reliant on him again.
Yeah.
And the fact that he has a responsibility to this household and to Colin and to his sister and to his mom. And that, I think, we talked about this, and I think a lot about the way that this line rhymes with him having a dream about the plane going down and Diane not coming to his funeral. Mm-hmm. And that's such a kind of myopic and almost narcissistic way of looking at death.
Lyric.
It's a deeply, it's like my death is about me, and it's about my heartbreak, and it's about our divorce in the American South.
And you will become,
and this is like, I'm thinking about my death. And also I think we don't have each other. The kind of like suicidal ideation that permeates Aaron's struggle early, and like his relationship with death has changed so much over the last decade. Mm-hmm. And so much of that has to do with him beginning to accept love. I mean, he's afraid of it. He's still, especially this early on in the record, he's still in a place of like great paralysis and anxiety about vulnerability, but he is living in this household with people that he does deeply love and care about, especially Colin, and they're having this kind of sweet paternalistic relationship that even enters into Dan. Whoa. So, oh my God, jump scare. Sorry to break kayfabe. But into Aaron's psyche, such that the way that he's doing like Freudian dream interpretation isn't so much, I miss you and why won't you like eulogize me, and is instead like my death will like fiscally impact our family.
Yeah, cripple it.
Like you guys need to eat and I need to help you do that. And if I weren't here, there would be like, it would be to the considerable detriment of these people.
And also like there's so much that you can glean in, especially in that second verse, about the socioeconomic condition that they're in and the job that he's working. My first job when I was 14 was helping my great uncle. He was a painter. He'd pick me up in the morning, and I remember we'd get to Wawa in the morning, and they would all buy, smokes and coffee, and I would buy a tasty cake or something. But at a certain time in the morning, a place like a Wawa, which for people that don't live in the 95 corridor is like a combination gas station convenience store.
It's awesome. It's a beautiful place.
The people that will be there are people that work labor jobs, hard labor, skilled labor jobs. And there's a certain like acknowledgement of like class and of the systems that it's built on as to who will be at a convenience store before the sun comes up getting ready to go to work and who is not. And what that means for how possible it then is to pay for getting sick.
Totally. I mean, and the other thing is like, we talk so much about the economy of storytelling and how you can freight each line with narrative detail, kind of like background information, emotional context, all of these things. And the, gas station coffee that tastes like shit and doesn't even wake me up is both an acknowledgement to that experience. It's like a reference to this kind of like cheap, gross coffee that you have to drink out of necessity because it's early and you're exhausted and you need to go do this job, this like manual labor job, and it's not even working, and there's this kind of just like unavailing like struggle to make this situation work. But it's also something that I think is so effective on this song and in all of Aaron's songwriting is like dark humor as a kind of coping mechanism and as a rhetorical device.
Yeah, I mean it's funny. It's a funny line.
It's a really funny line.
There's and there's the first line, cartoon Jesus on a cross. I say you must be running late because it's the apocalypse.
Exactly.
Even the first line of the song, no one told the birds the world was ending.
Exactly. Yeah. Totally.
Is I think a really indicative, like that's a COVID lyric.
Totally.
That's an early lockdown lyric.
When I read that lyric the first time, I was like, I literally remember
that
in
moment.
March 2020 going outside and being like, why is like the earth still happening?
Yeah. Right. And then but yeah, I think that it's part of making Aaron a three-dimensional character is that like it's that Whitman quote about containing multitudes. It's that something can be both sad and funny at the same time.
Yeah. And
the acknowledgement of that is what lends itself to humanity, and not these kind of, not like a shallow character that only has one mode, right? I think the character has developed over the last couple of records, and Aaron has developed as a person, but I think that the bringing like a blue kind of dark humor into these moments really like adds like validity to the character.
Totally. I mean, and it also is in some ways essential to the story that we believe he's charming and charismatic, because my man has gotten away with a lot. Yeah. Even, even on the first record with Thunderbird, where he's sort of like riffing with the like he's like late on his rent, and it's like you need to believe that these people, and especially the people in his family, are willing to keep sticking their neck out for him.
Because if he was a full unrepentant asshole, there would be no one there to offer help, right? He needs to be someone that is worthy of redemption in some ways.
For the people in his life and for us.
Yeah.
As listeners.
I think we should bring our guest on.
Yeah.
Can we bring on, so we have with us via Zoom, the producer of this and every Aaron West record, vocalist of the Early November and I Can Make a Mess, winner of South Jersey's Handsomest Man. It's Ace Enders.
Welcome, Ace.
Wow. Well, thank you very much for that lovely intro. I am, wow. That's
a big intro.
Award.
A big intro for a big guy, the big dog.
Big intro. Hey, thank you for having me on here. I'm very excited. This record obviously is very special for many reasons. But just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you for helping me make it. I think the first thing I wanted to ask you about was, because we're specifically talking about this song. Also, I'm not totally sure if you're going to be on screen or if it's just going to be your voice. For everyone's sake, I hope you're on screen.
I was going to say, I hope that everyone can see.
Just so everyone knows. I can see it. So the first thing I wanted to ask you about was, I had written the song and I brought it to you in your basement right before your kids got home from school.
Right.
And I said, I have this song and I don't know what genre it is, because it was so blank at that point, right? I was just kind of playing the chords, singing the lyrics, but there was so little ascribed to it. And you were the one that said, like, are you kidding me? It's a country song. And I wanted to know what about it just like pushed you in that direction and helped you see that when I couldn't.
I think that, number one, the overall feel of it, struck me in that way. I think like the way that I see music and the way that especially from you, like obviously your lyrics are incredible every single time. You have this gift that like, I'll sit there and like, I feel like nonsense comes out of my mouth. But when I hear something that you say and it matches, and in my head it clicks, like, it matches the musically, it ties it all together for me. And this song was one of those situations where, these very specific lyrics, even about the garage doors and like installing garage doors, like this blue collar type of work, like you're saying, like,
yes,
that just paints a picture to me of, a certain type of person, and I can see it. And, it just really felt like it lent itself to that type of vibe. Not only that, I mean, I think that deep down inside you got country guy written all over you. You just don't know it yet,
I appreciate that. Coming from a guy who writes some really phenomenal country songs that are going to be coming out probably in the next year, I would guess. That's my guess. That's my guess.
Yeah.
But okay, so Ace, for the uninitiated here, has produced all of these records and played a lot of instruments on them and has been very responsible for what meat goes on the skeleton, right? Like I bring him these bones of songs where it's like, hey, it's a structure, it's chords, it's lyrics, it's melody. I kind of think these instruments should go on it, but it's really Ace's call a lot of the time at the end of the day, what instrumentation goes in the song and where it goes. And so I kind of give Ace a wide palette, and I say sometimes, hey, this song has horns or this song doesn't, but it was Ace that chose to go with all the different instrumentation on this song with the lap steel, the accordion. And I wanted to ask you about like how those decisions were made in your brain, and just maybe like why those instruments and any other kind of production thoughts on it.
Yeah, that's a great question. I feel like this album specifically, all right, I buckled up for some of it. Like I put my seatbelt on because there's like 17 different musicians coming into the studio. But
very tight schedule.
Yeah, very tight schedule, but it was great. It was one of the coolest experiences. And to have all these colors to paint with in a song like this, it was really, really special, and for me, so much fun. Like I can hear music. I have a couple things that I can do well. One of them is being able to visualize things before they're laid out on, the actual paper. So when it came to this, obviously we needed the lap steel on this one. We needed that type of a vibe. And it's sort of like, I take everything that Dan does, and vocally, melodically, where he is and how that lands, and just try and, complement that as much as possible with everything else. Even if you listen to the way that Nick performed on this song, it's got that like sort of like swaggy shuffle type feel, but it's not straightforward. It's very much like this cool vibe that you can sink into throughout the whole track. And, from first your guitar and vocal, everything else complements that. And I feel like he did an excellent job of really being able to, bring out that vibe within this song. And then it comes like, lap steel next, and then guitar. And then obviously, we're a very bass friendly group around here. So it's like, we just keep adding these layers that try not to step on the main purpose and the main focus, which is bringing that person in via Dan's lyrics. And, I try and do my best job of making sure that it's all complementing, what he's trying to say. If he says, maybe sometimes a lyric will inspire a certain vibe. And I think you hear a lot of talk back on this record between the guitar lines. Either it's a guitar line or a steel line and your vocal. And I think that's one of the really cool things that I like to try and, that's what I base a lot of my decisions around.
everything in the conversation. I appreciate you saying that the center of the song is the lyrics and melody, but the center of this song is obviously Nick's snare tone, which is incredible. Just like such a cool like thud snare on this one. Nick really
huge.
Nick really did crush it. And I love the accordion on this song too.
Yep.
And Holden and I were talking before this about the episodic nature of the songs, and you had a question about kind of like cliffhangers, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that this song obviously establishes a lot of narrative ground because it furthers it furthers Colin's character and their relationship, but it also introduces a new character, which is Sam.
It's the first time you get anything from Sam.
And I was interested in kind of like, especially considering the record sort of as a TV show, it's like, where do you cut the episodes? Like, what's a scene? What's a kind of a contained story or vignette? And how do you kind of work these songs into each other? Especially because Aaron's story has now so many years of breadth. And how do you know when you can sort of drop something in, a character, reference them, and you can trust your listener that they'll feel the sort of full weight of everything that's come before? How do you know when to recontextualize things? How much do you need to give each character each time you introduce them? And just sort of like how to sort of splice the story. I
mean, that interstitial structure is like, it's so important to the storytelling. And I want to get to Ace with it in a second, because there's something specific we did musically with that. But I think that the way that the next song starts, which I don't think is good, it's not coming out before the album, but you'll hear it. It's called Monongahela Park. I needed that to pick up already knowing who Sam is.
Yeah.
To a degree. Right? Not fully, not understanding the character entirely, but I couldn't spend time in that song introducing that character. And also, I think that, like we're saying, it's all episodic. And so planting seeds for later songs in earlier songs is something that I think is really, really important and has been happening throughout the entire project, from the lilies that get found in Runnin' Scared to, finding them in Your Pocket in Carolina Coast, to the first mention of Aaron's brother-in-law being sick in Rosa and Rosita, a song that has nothing to do with that. But you get these foreshadowing echoes. Right. And I felt like this was the right song to bring Sam in and the right environment to run into them. And then Ace and I talked about it. We said, okay, well, it's obviously an important lyric to this song and important to the storytelling. It's the only C part of the song, right? There's the A verses, the B choruses. This is the only other part of this song. And I think it was Ace's idea to go to piano for it. But the conversation was like, we need to let it...
To emphasize it.
We need to let it breathe a little bit and to emphasize that this is a different part of this song. And I just wanted to see if Ace had any thoughts on building that kind of... it's a pretty... it's an uncommon thing, I'm sure, for you as a producer to not just have to work with music and not just have to work with storytelling, but to have to work with storytelling in this kind of very episodic way, and what that does to your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I think it's like the coolest thing in the world. I think it's
Totally.
Amazing. Yeah, to put that into it, it really gives the listener this new, door to walk through that they don't get a lot of times. And, for me, I'm a really, deep creative thinker, and I think that this is just one of another element that makes it really cool. But you hit it on the head. When you introduce something like that, you're symbolizing with that new instrumentation and bringing everything down that, this is something different is happening. And subconsciously, you're giving someone the opportunity to feel that in a different way without think about it. I try and look at it through a lens of the first time I listen to something, I'm not really focused or hyper focused on lyrics. I might be driving in my car or taking my kids to school or something like that, but if I feel something is changing, as well as lyrically or in the story something is changing, I'll go back and I'll then be able to focus on it. It'll give me a reason to come back to it if I'm not right there from that very first jump. And I think I try and bring that type of an element to it, because I mean, for some, it's it's hard to really to dig in that first time, but I think that's a really good way, and you hit it exactly on the head. It's just shifting that perspective a little bit and giving the listener the ability to feel something different at the same time as processing the thought that something different is happening as well.
Yeah, we're offering a soundtrack to that moment that's like that is unique from the rest of the song. Tells you key into this, right? There's one other thing I want to talk to Ace about. It's just we talk about musical touchstones for each song, and I always try to make myself playlists of things. I'm like, okay, be thinking about this style. And with this song, I was thinking a lot about First Aid Kit, and I was thinking a lot about Planes, and I was thinking a lot about these kind of like rubby, Ace, would you call them like bluegrassy harmonies or?
Yeah.
And I was like, Ace, I really want this kind of like tense, cool, very human harmony. And what I love about it, so I always joke that First Aid Kit has this unfair advantage because they're sisters. And so like via DNA, their voices will have, they'll kind of, I think that's true. I think that's like why so many family bands work. I mean, this is pure conjecture, right? I mean,
especially in country though, there's definitely like a lineage of that.
I might be wrong. Joe, could you fact check me on this? Is it true that people that are related harmonize better?
Anatomically.
They call it blood harmony? That's a real thing?
Holy shit.
Wow.
Well, my brother and I are both tone deaf, so.
In a harmonic way.
Yes.
But what I love about that harmony, and one of the, I think the reasons it works really well, is that while I'm in it, the other person in it besides Ace is his sister.
Yep.
So that's Robin singing on that harmony, and you guys built that. I wasn't even in the room. Do you want to talk a little bit about building that harmony and trying to find what made it so special? Because I really think that took the song from a song I like to a song I love.
That's awesome to hear. That's awesome to hear. I mean, you said from the beginning, and you had the idea of wanting this big harmony at the end. And I think keeping it human, super important, because it doesn't stick to a specific note. It doesn't stick to a specific pattern. Where there's times where we're all kind of moving in different directions, and like, switching notes is not as, it's more, like you said, more bluegrass than it is a straight up pop 3-part harmony. And that's kind of the really cool thing about it. And me and my sister, obviously we work very well together when it comes to harmonizing. She understands me. I could say something and she'll be like, oh, I get it right away, as opposed to like having to sing through the entire thing for someone. But it was a really cool moment in not only being able to include her. For me, it's really, really cool, but the fact that it complemented the song and worked so well is really special. And I think it did achieve what we wanted it to achieve.
I think exactly what I asked you for. I think what I said to Ace and Robin, my only real note was sing it like you're singing lead. Don't sing it like you're singing a harmony. I want it to basically be 3 lead vocals harmonizing with each other. Yeah. And they crushed it.
Well, and it's perfect because it feels in so many ways like throughout the record, it's another great example of this kind of like indexical mimetic representation of what's happening in the family. There's this like, it is, Aaron in these moments there's like his sister and Colin, and there's kind of this like, there's like the female vocal and then there's the 2 male vocals, and like it feels like what the family sounds like to me as a listener hearing these moments. And there are moments later on the record that we'll talk about when we get there, where there's another sort of like twinned vocal moment that isn't a harmony, that is doing the same thing, where it's kind of
there's a reason it's more people.
It's doing what's happening in the song, in the world of the song.
I think can you remind me, is Nina on that harmony as well?
In that one, I don't remember.
But regardless, Nina's going to do it live for every show that Robin's not there.
Perfect.
And Nina plays Catherine.
Right.
So it is like
it will be literal.
Sister. It'll be literal.
It's so sweet. I mean, and like the final thing I think I want to say about the production on this song, as it relates to the introduction of Sam, is that it really, because this song has this kind of this sort of sweet country feel, this sort of like very humanistic, like bluegrassy kind of grounded. I think Plains is like a great correlative. There's a warmth. There's a real warmth to the song. It feels like Aaron is in the right space to receive them as a person, both narratively, like in story, and also sonically. There's a kind of, even though what's happening in the world is shitty and he's in a really kind of unfortunate, precarious position, there's a kind of emotional security, or at least the guise of emotional security that places him in the right place to receive this new person in his life. And I think in this moment in the song, even though it is still portentous for what is to come, it feels exciting. There's this kind of romance and intrigue to the way that it sounds, to the sort of sensitivity of it, that I think is really great.
Yeah, and I think some of the credit there also goes to Nina, because I think, I don't really know. I don't know how to play piano. Ace is a better piano player than I am, but also probably would not consider himself a piano player, whereas Nina is, classically trained and just kind of knew the right inner harmonies to find to really drive that home.
Yeah.
Well, Ace,
I'm a piano faker, but I will say really quick,
yes,
what you just said about this song, I didn't think about it like that. It never crossed my mind, but the fact that when you were saying it, I'm sitting there like, oh my God, that's 100% exactly what it feels like.
That's why he's the GOAT. That's why he's here.
That's why we're here.
Why do you think I got him to host?
Like, seriously, really, really crushed that right there. Like, as you're describing it, I'm like, I wish that it was like consciously a thought that was going, but that's great. That's 100%.
It was intuitive, I guess, for you guys. Like that, you knew what it needed to be. But yeah, thank you.
That subconscious fog again, just presenting gifts.
Yeah,
that
just
you don't know where they come
emerging from the ether.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Well, Ace, thank you so much for taking some time out of your modeling career to come in here.
You gotta stop doing that, man.
No, I hope that you guys can see what we're working with here in studio.
All right. I love you,
Unreal.
baby. Thank you very much. I'll see you in a couple weeks.
Thanks for coming
sir.
by.
Thank you.
You got to answer my
Absolutely,
text.
Thank you. All right.
You're on a group
Yes,
chat. You
I will.
didn't answer.
I'll be there.
All right. I love you.
All right. I
You're
get
a busy
overwhelmed.
man. I get it.
You know.
Later.
All right.
I'll see y'all. Thank you.
See ya.
All right.
All right. Well, that was episode 3.
That was episode 2.
That was episode 2.
Paying bills at the end of the
Man,
world.
we keep fucking it up.
Hey, listen, this time it was you. Last time it was me, so I'm just...
That was episode 2.
That
Paying bills at the end of the world.
That was episode 2 of In Lieu of Flowers, Singing at Brick Walls. I've been Dan.
I'm Holden.
And
No.
we'll see you next time.
Fuck.